It's because I have my screen maximized versus.
We're live, darling.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry. I said you were ready.
Okay. All right. Welcome everybody to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl. And today we are going to be talking about letting go, how to let go. And the reason we're talking about this is because we're discussing verse 55 of the Tao Te Ching as interpreted by Wayne Dyer in his book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. Dan was just holding that book up there for us so we could see it. And I'm here with my good friends Dan and Catherine, Sandy, and Karen. And hopefully we're going to share some really awesome tips with you today. I know that letting go is one of those things that can be really difficult for a lot of people. And I mean, I've experienced it. Sometimes it's easy with some things. Sometimes it's difficult with other things. Sometimes stuff just keeps coming back and niggling away at us, and we just have to keep working on it. But when we are able to let go of those things that aggravate us, frustrate us, make us angry, annoy the crap out of us, whatever it is, then we actually create a much more peaceful existence for ourselves. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to give you some tips as far as what we have experienced in our lives. We're going to share some strategies. We're going to tell you some stories, and you can ask your questions or join in the conversation. If you've never been on with us before and you would like to join us next week, you can always find us at zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com. That is the link to share it tells you the instructions for joining in. You can join in on video or via phone, or just listen in by phone if you want to. So with that, I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then we can read the verse and go from there. Okay, guys, jump on out.
Good morning. This is Catherine in Boulder, Colorado, and looking forward to this 55th verse. This is a good one.
Dan in Las Vegas. I too also was just reading over the verse this morning, so I get a little caught up. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good one, and looking forward to hearing what everybody has to share.
Good morning, Sandy Root here in Miami Beach, and looking forward to it.
Good morning. I'm clicking the wrong mic. It's not working. I'm Karen Lohoff in Chandler, Arizona, and the sun is up, just barely. So this will be great. Thanks.
And Chris made it.
Yup, sure did. Hi.
Woot woot.
Dan, too.
Morning.
All right, guys. So who wants to read the verse this morning? Oh, wait, Dan, did you introduce yourself?
Yes, I did, and
Okay.
I'll read the verse, seeing how you.
Awesome.
Okay. He who is He who is in harmony with the Tao is like a newborn child. Deadly insects will not sting him, wild beasts will not attack him, birds of prey will not strike him. Bones are weak, muscles are soft, yet his grasp is firm. He has not experienced the union of man and woman, but is whole. His manhood is strong. He screams all day without becoming hoarse. This is perfect harmony. To know harmony is to know the changeless. To know the changeless is to have insight. Things in harmony with the Tao remain. Things that are forced grow for a while, but then wither away. This is not the Tao, and whatever is against the Tao soon ceases to be.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, guys. So before we start talking about the letting go aspect, let's talk about what you thought about this verse when you first read it, or the things that came up for you first. Who wants to share their thoughts?
I'll jump out.
Go for it.
For me, there's a couple major areas. I think one for me is and I don't know if other people deal with this or have been dealt with this. Is like with finances and stuff of how to let go and like when you're really tight with money, but yet you see a need somewhere or something like that, and you kind of play in your head where, well, I need this money to do this and that, but there's and other things and things that I could do with finances and stuff, but yet at the same point I'm like you know tight-fisted with it, and like I need this so I can do what I need to do, and that's been a recurring thing I think in my life over time and my life, that's one major area that whereas I can let go of other things, I can let go of you know things that people say about me or stuff. At the moment I might be a little upset or whatever, but I can usually work through it, let it go, or see that it's not worth me putting that energy into, because it's only just going to drag me down. So that's one area like for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hi, Dan. Hi, everyone. Let's see if I can get my picture here. No, letting go of situations is a big deal. Just when something doesn't work, you just have to go on to something else. So here I am.
What comes to me on that is, when we let go of situations, a lot of times something better comes up. And we a lot of times find ourselves holding on to a situation or somebody or something, and just creates all this tension and things don't flow in our life. But when we can let go of and that's all, I guess, comes to expectations and our ideas of the way things should be. And then when we let go of those expectations around a situation, then new stuff can flow in. It's like what's that phrase? When one door closes, another one opens. But a lot of times we're looking at the closed door like, instead of looking forward at the open doors. So good reminders for me today, because I've been sort of having a situation that I keep stewing in my head. And I know I need to let it go, but it's like we get stuck in that thinking about it so much.
I think I maybe got off track here at what Samantha was asking us at the beginning. And so I'm kind of looking through the different verses that I have here and noticing for the first time that this one begins, he who is in harmony with the Tao. I've got about 5 of them. The next one says, he who is filled with virtue is like a newborn child. In other words, he who is in harmony with the Tao is like a newborn child. He who is filled with virtue is like a newborn child. And then the one who is filled by virtue is like a newborn baby. And this, I guess I must have 4. This last one is the one that kind of brought it to my attention. He who has in himself abundantly the attributes of the infant, and then it goes into all how you don't get stung, you don't get struck, you don't, all these different things. And if I would stop breathing so deeply, sorry. I think it's interesting that it's basically kind of saying, if we take into consideration that we've created this, the main part of this being letting go, how do you let go? Go back to that beginning of being like the newborn babe, where, like this last interpretation that I had indicates that when you get strong, you get old. And I've done that with things that I hang on to. I get really clenchy and like I'm having a hard time. You know what? I have a jet stream that's going across the window near where my sunshine is. Now I believe it. They've got that saturated so that my brain is going weird. In case you wondered. All right, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing those other interpretations, Karen. I always appreciate that so much. I guess that's kind of one of the things that we have to remember is that the verses that are in this book that Wayne Dyer chose were the ones from certain translations that kind of resonated with him. But he said that he chose these verses out of 10 different translations. So each verse could be from a different translation. But I love how when we share different ones that it kind of opens up or kind of clicks a little light bulb of understanding sometimes when it doesn't fully, click as to what we think that it means. So I appreciate that so much, Karen. You always bring that great insight to us. Excuse me. I thought that was interesting how when it's talking about this, if you're like a newborn child, then you are kind of in that complete trust aspect. You're just like you aren't trying to control anything. You just are. That's of course that's what the Tao keeps telling us. Just be. Don't try and control. Don't try and expect. Don't try and make things happen. Just be and allow the Tao to flow through you, allow life to flow through you and just experience it. But that's hard to do, isn't it? But yet it tells us right here, it says, if you're like that, then, you're not going to get stung or attacked or struck, but yet at the same time, you say, okay, wait a second. Now that's not necessarily true. If we take that literally and we're walking through a meadow, there is a possibility we're going to get stung by a bee, right? But I think that what he's trying to say there is that even it's not the fact that you won't have things happen. It will be the fact that if something does happen, that you aren't going to freak out about it. You're going to be like, oh, this thing happened. I can deal with it. It's all right. I'm just going to keep on going and going through my life and enjoying my life and not worry so much about what happens if I do get stung by a bee or hit by a car or, whatever it happens to be. A tornado hits your house, it could be anything. So that was kind of my thoughts on this verse when I first started reading it. Is just that it's funny to me how he says some things and if we take them literally, we're like, what? I don't think so. Okay. Yeah,
Well, I was going to jump out and say, sorry, Samantha, but I don't like bees. So if I get stung by a bee, I'm going to be I've been stung by a bee before, and I don't like bees. I see them, I run the other way. They're the smallest things around, and I hate them, and I go the other direction. So they would cause me to be all. But going back to some of what I was reading in the book here where Luce Tao says that we should look to infants who haven't yet taken on the ego belief that they're separate from their originating source. Consequently, they have what could be considered magical powers. And how many times have we seen babies crying or this or that, and people all of a sudden just want to take care of whatever's wrong or go make sure everything's okay. And yeah, it's true because I've seen it in action. They can scream all day and they never lose their voice, no matter what. Somehow they can let the whole world know that they're there, and also, even with undeveloped muscles, because they're not developed, they haven't been working out or, and yet when you grab they grab your finger or something, they can grab and they've got a tight little grip. I've seen that with my nieces and nephews when they grab a hold and it's like trying, okay, you can not be so tight with that grip there, and I had a friend who had his daughter and she actually fell down some stairs, but sure, she probably had a little bruise here or there, but except for the crying of, when she first fell, but she was nonetheless, whereas me, if I'd fall downstairs, I might break a leg or, I'd be going, blah, trying to stop myself to break the fall and probably causing more damage. which is led me to another thought where, like, they talk about drunk drivers. A lot of times they get up and walk away from an accident, whereas the people that they hit or are involved are the ones that are badly hurt. That's because they just kind of are rolling and bouncing around with whatever. So therefore, they roll with it and go with it because their capacities are impaired. But yet the person that's been hit, they're like bracing, and so therefore, resist it, so cause something to break or something. So looking at it that way, letting go and rolling and going through it seems to be the obvious way to go, but yet we're so afraid of what's going to happen and we resist it. We don't want it to happen, I think. And I think that's where a lot of my issues are.
I was just gonna hop out before and bounce off of the newborn child stuff. Like you were saying, Samantha. Oh, my brain just stopped working. Oh, like the baby trusts, like it knows it's going to be taken care of. There's no thought of what am I going to do next, or what, if it wants to cry, it cries. If it wants to laugh, it laughs. There's no thinking of the consequences or what's going to happen, or how am I going to get fed, or this or that. They're just floating along. And reminds me, but I think we had a conversation a few weeks ago about like the Divine Mother, like, or that greater source, like always. I've had some readings from friends lately, and they bring it, that tends to come up for me a lot, like really trusting that you're embraced by the universe, by the Divine Mother, whatever you want to call it, that you're really held. And and it's when our thoughts and our mind and that resistance comes up, that it's like we're almost like this tree that's so stiff, so it just cracks like at a little thing. It's just, and it breaks. And then like a more bendy tree is like just flowing in the wind. And so being the bendy tree and just letting things come sounds so easy. It's like our conversation last week sounded so easy, but we struggle all the time with these things. And I like the part that he was saying about luck. Change the way you look at your potential for becoming a lucky person. Rather than saying, with my luck, things aren't going to work out for me, affirm, I'm open to allowing what needs to happen. I trust luck to guide me. And when I read that, I was thinking about what he was saying about, how some people never get sick. And that reminded me of me, because I've sort of always been like that. Like people could be sick around me all the time, and I wouldn't get sick. And it just reminded me that I guess I've sort of always had that belief that I'm lucky in health, and I'm, I like those things don't faze me, like I don't like at all. Like, and then my brother's sort of the opposite. Like he'll worry at every little thing on his body or this or that, and then he tends to get sick because he's constantly analyzing it and, oh, what's that? What's this feeling? And for me, I'm just maybe I look at it as more an energy and just move it through if I feel something. And then so yeah, it made me look at other areas of my life, like, okay, if I can feel lucky in this, how can I, change my thoughts to trusting luck to guide me in all areas. So I think that's a good affirmation there, because I think a lot of people, just automatically say, well, I don't have the best luck, or, or in a certain situation. It's sort of like this thing that people say in society, just like it's normal to say. But how about, yeah, I trust luck to guide me. I like that.
That was really good. Yeah. Yeah, you have to have the best outlook on things. And I noticed that, like, whichever way I try to go, it seems like your thoughts reflect your words and back at each other. And depending on how you look at things, amazingly, a lot of times that's how it turns out. So it seems like it's better to have a positive spin and thought on things, It's a really good idea with thought. I'm gonna take a little dive here and ask, where is today's verse listed online? Is there a place I can peek at it? Because I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I shared it on my Facebook profile yesterday. I also shared it in the Facebook event that I created the other day, so you can find the link to
I'll
that in
find
the
it on
chat.
your page right now. Thank you very much, Samantha.
Yep, you betcha.
Yeah, it's too bad we can't post pictures in here, or so that we had it right there. But well, this verse, letting go, you're right. Expectations are a bitch, like completely. They will do you in. And well, it's not that they'll do you in. It's really, it all boils down to the resistance to whatever's happening. No matter what it is your resistance to the bee that causes a problem there, because I can have a bee come land on me and I just talk to him. So we have completely different, communication with the bees. And like for me, the things that and I see it every day in my life, the things that I'm resistant to, and the things that we say, the words that we say, oh my goodness, I still catch myself calling things a pain in the ass. And that's something that my uncle called me. He babysat me when I was a little kid, and he called me that like a million times a day, that I was a pain in the ass, because he really resented having to take care of me. And it was something that I picked up saying, and I just yesterday I caught myself saying it. I'm like, would you stop freaking saying that? Here you've got this pain in the ass that you need to get rid of, and it's like you're saying it and it's manifesting in your ass. So stop saying it. So we have to be really careful with our words, and I think we have to be very careful with our focus. And this has been a very paramount in my life this week, because in the business we had some doors closed and some doors open, and we have people that are very focused on the closed doors, even though we've got, the land of Oz is just opened up in like Technicolor for us, but we're still looking back at that door, focusing on that. And that's what we need to, talk about 23 hours a day. And if you can just, and I say this to myself, when you get in that situation, if you can just shift your focus. And I think that's what, things like meditation or working with energy, doing Qigong, or doing an energy exercise form like Tai Chi or something like that, is so helpful. For some people, it might just be putting on music, or whatever it is. You have to find the tool that you can use when you catch yourself going down that road, that you can kind of bitch slap yourself and say, hey, stop that. You got to look over here, look at all this good stuff over here, because you can really, I've seen people ruin their entire lives by not being able to let go of like one thing that happened in their life 85 years ago, and their whole life has been forged based around that and their resistance to that. And it's very sad. I think people miss out on a lot of their life that way. And just letting go, it sounds so simple, but it's probably one of the most important things that somebody can do. Sorry, I shouldn't turn that off.
I just remembered, I think you drew this diagram, Samantha. I had saved it on my phone, and I was going through my phone this week to delete old pictures, and I saved this one because it's awesome. I think you drew it. It's about I can post it in the chat, about there's this flow, and then there's all these possible paths, and then at the end is the result and goal or desire. And in between with all these possible paths, there's like this struggle to make a decision. And then you wrote, we can't see that all the choices lead to the thing we are focused on. So, we could have all these possible paths, and we struggle with like, am I choosing the right path? Am I making the right decision? But if we're focused on that desire of where we're going, where we want, all the possible paths would take us there. Just stay focused on the desire and where you're going, and you'll get there, rather than we get so stuck in the making a decision. And and it works because I know that when I really take the time every morning, I have like my affirmations, I get into the feeling of everything I want, and I see it happen no matter what happens in my life, no matter where I'm at. But then there's the days where it's just like your mind goes blah blah blah. But I need to do this. But should I do this instead? And then you get so off track in the that. But it's also like needing to be present in the moment too. So like living your desire now and seeing it unfold. And there's just so many different tools and ways to go about these things. But remembering that, being present, being like a baby, focusing on being what you are, your desire, or sort of like what Donald Walsh was saying, like if you want something in your life, share that with somebody and you're it all right now, and you can carry that forward inside of yourself. So there's so many awesome tools, and I love this diagram. So I'll post it again in the group.
So I forgot about that. It's just like a little pencil drawing, isn't it? Right on. I had that thought pop up when, I don't know, we were having one of our conversations a while back, and it's funny, but I like that reminder, Catherine, when you were talking about how everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people get stuck on that one thing and they can't let go of it, and that is what causes them to miss out on so many things in their lives. And I kind of want to switch the conversation just a little bit and start talking about some of our own experiences of, situations where we have gotten stuck on something that we can't let go of, and then what we did to let go of it, and how that changed things for us. And I kind of want to start. I'll start with one that happened for me. Last year, and I know I've talked about this before in some of our previous discussions, but I think even bringing back some of the same stories that we've talked about before can be really helpful in this particular one, since we are talking about letting go. And of course, last year I was struggling really significantly because we had we'd made this change in our lives earlier on where we were going to become full-time RVers. That was the thing I wanted. I wanted this more than anything, is what I thought. And so we had made that change. We were living in our camper, and we'd been doing that for a couple of years, and things weren't going the way that I expected them to go. And my husband got tired of it. He was like, I've had it. I've had enough. I don't want to keep trying with this. I want to go back to Indiana, and I want to do the trucking again, And I'm like, not the trucking. No, And I was so resistant to it. I mean, I was so upset on this one particular occasion because I couldn't let go of what I wanted as far as the RVing thing goes. I was so upset that I was literally, and I kid you not, I was throwing a little kid tantrum with my husband. I was so mad. I was crying. I was screaming. I was so upset with him for that. And then, we got together on our Saturday Morning Mastermind. I don't remember what we talked about that day, but I'm sure it had something to do with letting go and going with the flow, or living our lives, or doing whatever, just taking life and running with it. And then I had also watched a video that was a song from One Republic, and it was talking about just living your life and experiencing life. And it was in those kind of moments of those realizations, I'm like, I am so resistant. This is my resistance right here, is this: I was so stuck on wanting to do what I wanted to do right now in this moment of my life. This is what I wanted, even though it wasn't working out right. I was so stuck on it that it was like causing me all of this insane emotional craziness that I couldn't get past. And once I kind of realized what I was doing to myself, I was like, oh, okay, I just need to just go with the flow of life and see what happens, And then it was like this big weight lifted off of me. And I was like, all right, I'm open for another adventure. What the hell? Let's go do what we're going to do, and we'll see what happens. And nothing ever works out bad. I mean, sometimes we have some little bumps in the road, But, even in all of the different life adventures that we've had over the years, everything ends up being great in some way, shape, or form. And so, and there really wasn't too much of a strategy with that. It was just mostly coming to this realization that I was holding myself stuck. I was keeping myself stuck, and I just needed to let it go with the flow, and trust that life is going to turn out okay. And now we're in Indiana, and we're in a great new apartment, and Chris's stroking business is doing great, surprisingly enough, and and we're having a good time, and I'm still getting to have time with my grandbabies, not as much as I want, but I'm closer to my daughter. And even though my son is still in Georgia, at least we can go down there, when we want to. And who knows? Maybe the full-time RVing will come back around at some point in time in the future, and we weren't ready for it yet. I don't know. Who knows? But we're having a good time now. So that's one story for you guys today. Who else has something to share like that?
Keep on trucking. No, that's a good story, getting letting go. I have like kind of a dramatic story of letting go of something. And 8 years ago, I was like it was like I had just stopped. I was just still drinking hard liquor, and I was thinking really negative thoughts about myself, and I was letting myself go to a place where I was actually saying suicidal and negative things to myself for like an 8-week period. Well, it turned out I had a golf ball size melanoma on my collarbone. And I had always been into self-development and positive thinking. And so I immediately did a 180 and realized, oh my God, I was thinking way too much about these things. And I did like a 180 thinking, and I ended up like, of course I was like really scared and went through a lot, and I did have it surgically removed, but like I did a 180 in my thinking, and I let go of the thoughts and changed my thought patterns. And like, that's probably the closest like experience I've had with like what I would consider the law of attraction, because I can't seem to keep track of how that works. But like, that was something I let go of, and it's just gone away, and it hasn't really bothered me since. So that's kind of like, that's my little miracle story, actually.
We might have to refer to you as Tariq Al-Musa. Anybody else watch the flip houses, all that kind of stuff? Anyway, you were saying you had a dramatic one, and I was thinking, well, that's not dramatic. It is dramatic. I have kind of what I was thinking when Samantha suggested that we kind of turn this in this direction is that I really had not realized I wonder how many of us don't realize when we have not let something go. Thanks, Sandy, for putting up LOL when I said, this was written for me, this whole thing. I love psychology. I intended to get my degree in psychology. I've mentioned this before. The trigonometry teacher kind of stuck a sword into my neck, and so I have a minor in psychology, and went off a different direction where I didn't have to do any of this higher math stuff. But I've been acquainted with all this, this self-progress, this positive thing, whatever you want to call it, for basically all my life. And yet, there's something in my background, and I've noticed this in my family, that's very, very stubborn, a very stubborn kernel. I think it might be from the Scandinavians. My, my mother had one side Danish, one side Swedish, and those people, the Vikings. If you think about their outfits, they're probably still wearing those outfits. I was so sure that the thing that I had to do in my life was to marry the right man, and I had to do it before I left school, because I went to a school associated with my religion. I had to do it before then. I'd been engaged a couple of times. They were disasters. I was so glad to be relieved of not having to marry them. And then I married, I kind of like grasp a hold of, oh, here's somebody that's, a good guy and can do the right thing. And by the time we'd been married almost 19 years, I thought, I've nearly died once, and I'm going to die for sure if I stay in this situation. So I get out of the situation, and the whole rest of my life is all about what a bad person I am. And I didn't even realize what I was doing. It's kind of like Chris. Chris realizes that he was going through suicidal thoughts and, all this stuff. And I mean, I've only in the last couple of years realized how many years of negative thinking, because this first guy and I, we've been divorced now nearly 26 years. And, I mean, I do it less, and at least now when I do it, I'm aware I'm doing it. But I still go back to the negativity of that relationship. It's amazing you can be in a marriage with a person for nearly 2 decades, and, you think you're cooking along as a smiley person, as a happy person doing good, and you have no idea how much you wish you were dead. So I'm sure we're gonna have a chance to talk about this a little bit, but if we don't, I think what I've noticed about Lao Tzu is at the end, he always kind of has these little, it's like he has a keyword, but you have to look for it. And the keyword that he talks about, at least in the 4 or 5 different translations that I have, is harmony. And he talks about harmony, and each one of them is just a little bit different twist, a little bit different word association. And I find those kinds of things really, really, really helpful to me. So we'll come back to that. And I hope I didn't create any downer events for anybody.
No, I think that was a good point. A lot of times we're not even aware of things that we need to let go. And sometimes I think for a lot of us, it takes someone else to tell us, because we're so in ourselves that we're maybe not aware of it. And I guess that's where awareness comes in too, like self-awareness, really being aware of yourself and your thoughts and your feelings and how you're putting yourself out there. But yeah, I can't think of the scenario, but I remember there was a time in my life, I think, where somebody said something and I realized, oh my God, yeah, I've been doing this. And it was like I immediately let it go, because it was like, yeah, why am I holding on to this? And I let it go, and everything changed in an instant. And, and it's amazing how when you really let go of something, how things can change just like that. But yeah, definitely, that's a great point. Like, you have to be aware of what you need to let go of before you can let go of it. So yeah, that's something to look at more, definitely. Things we can let go of that we're not even aware of. So great point.
That's so funny, because of the fact that we can be so emotional, in so much emotional turmoil and frustration and anger and everything else, and not even realize why we're there. We just are. Good, jump out, Chris. Sorry.
No, that was perfect. Yeah, exactly. Don't know why we're there. So interesting. You pointed out the word harmony in this verse, and it's funny because I was looking at deadly insects, wild beasts, birds of prey. He screams all day. And so it was kind of funny. I was like, I wasn't seeing how this verse was coming together. And then at the beginning, it's like, is in harmony like a newborn child. And so it's like, I don't know, it kind of came together when you said that to me. And the other thing I was thinking of when you were talking about a relationship you want to get out of is I was thinking of this show, All in the Family, with Edith Bunker, and how Archie would always be on her. And I don't know, it just made me laugh thinking about it.
I was going to jump out into what Sandy was saying about, sometimes we don't know that I think sometimes if we're even honest with ourselves, sometimes we don't want to get out of that because we want to stew in it. We want other people to maybe commiserate with us or take our side or, tell us we're right in what we're feeling and stuff. And it's the ones that can sit there honestly and openly and look at us and say, why is that an issue? Why are you letting that be? Look what it's doing to you. Because I think, if we're honest, those type of things, can feed into us. And Catherine, I think you'll agree with where I'm going on this, is that can affect us in our health, in our, spiritual, in that part of our lives. So when we're there, sometimes by hanging on to those things and really, it can be really detrimental to us in some way because our body reacts to it. It causes changes in our makeup to where it's not good, but when we can either learn to get past it and let go or have somebody help us see that we need to let it go, I think that's something that we all need, and to help each other and get people back to be in harmony, so that way we can be in harmony out there with the rest of the world and share our light and share what we're what we have to share to help better and improve somebody else's life too.
A good reminder, Dan, about that. Sometimes we just don't want to let it go because, if we're honest, we want to wallow in our own self-pity and our own wanny nanny boo-boo and all of that. Because what happens if you acknowledge that you could let it go, then what do you have to do next? You got to let it go, right? You got to acknowledge the fact that you're the one that it has the power to fix your whole entire situation. But when you're wallowing in the wan and a boo-boo, it's someone else's fault, isn't it? It's always somebody else that you're blaming. It's always somebody else you're upset with. You don't want to acknowledge the fact that you're the one that has the issue that you have to deal with. You'd rather point at someone else and say they're the cause of the problem and there's nothing I can do about it, which is it's that BS that we tell ourselves, right? And sometimes, I've been in some situations where I just feel sad for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm just blah. It's cloudy out. Let's blame it on the clouds, and I'm like, want to just be all blah that day. And so I'll just be like, blah, 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 and so instead of taking that little bit of effort to go in the other direction, like, okay, I know that I could sit and have a meditation for a few minutes. I could go outside and walk around and get some fresh air. I could read a happy book. I could watch a happy movie. I could listen to music and dance. I could do all these little things to get myself out of that funk. But yet, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to wallow in my wan and a boo-boo for whatever reason it is, And but it's funny how we do that to ourselves, And I guess that once you realize, okay, yeah, this is what I'm actually doing to myself, then with that self-aware stuff that we're talking about, is then you realize, oh, okay, I'm being that person. I'm being that downer person, and I need to quit doing that. I need to just get out of my little hole that I've dug for myself and crawl back up into the sunlight and realize that, okay, I do have the power to make the changes in my own life, and what am I going to do about it? Let's do something. So you know, that's my thought.
Awesome. Hey, so I sort of have a question with this. So at the beginning, he's saying like a newborn child. So I can see this sort of innocence or absolute simplicity towards things, and that keeps you in harmony without flowing or going against things. So then if there is something, let's say someone harmful like is in my environment, this is my question to you guys. Do you just ignore that, or how do you best deal with that? Because it seems like to me that sometimes, like in this instance, well, I had to say something about this person, but it was causing harm to the environment. So how do you deal with that in your personal environment?
I'll jump out with that. That's a great question, I think. And that's one thing that came up with me. It's great to be here, guys. Sorry I was late. But I do appreciate you all. And that was a great question that kind of came up with me. And my only initial quick answer for that, Chris, is to give that person something else to think about. If they're harming the environment, maybe they need to stop harming the environment. There's something else in their life that they need to focus on. So if you can kind of distract them of harming the environment, then maybe you can cause some transformation in their life at the same time helping save the environment. And it doesn't pull you out of alignment to do it. What do you think?
I was reminded of, sorry, was somebody going to say something? I was listening to this audio this week, and this guy, I guess he was looking at if somebody's in your space, in your area that's, in the room or whatever, wherever you are, that's being negative or, they're harmful or something to, you can, like, first of all, saying, okay, that person must be having a bad day. A lot of times we get angry at them, but maybe their dog died, or, who knows what happened, or something happened to them and they just got in this. So having compassion first, like, okay, maybe they're, who knows what happened, and maybe they had a bad childhood, maybe, just saying, okay, there's a reason why they're upset or they're causing harm. And he gave a few examples. One, I guess he was in a crowded area and some guy pushed him, like they were trying to get out the door or something. And, he just told the guy, oh, just go ahead, instead at first he wanted to resist and be like, yeah, initially he wanted to be like, push them back, like, hey, dude. But he said, oh, you must be in a rush. Go ahead. Sort of just still being yourself, being pleasant in your mood and not letting them get to you and letting, okay, you want to go ahead. And the guy sort of just looked at him like, I guess the guy was wanting to have that resistance back, but he sort of was like, and it sort of tweaks their brain, like, oh, that person was nice to me, even though I was being mad. And he had another example of, he had gotten or I guess it's some guy cut him off, or he cut off some guy, and the guy got really mad and he sort of flicked his hand in the air, like whatever. And the mad guy ended up pulling this guy over, like wanting to fight. And he thought maybe that their cars hit, so that he got out of the car and he noticed that a kid was in the angry guy's car. And so he just said to him, you must be having a bad day. I see that your kid's in the car. And the guy sort of just woke up like, yeah, my kid's in the car. And it just dissolved the situation. So seeing where the other person is at, I guess sometimes, and having compassion for them can really help dissolve this situation, because they don't expect that, because they're looking for that resistance back a lot of the times. And if you're like, help to dissolve it, they're sort of like, oh, and it just dissolves the whole situation. So those were some examples. I hope that helps your question.
What were you listening to, Sandy, where he was giving the examples? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's in my email. I have to look it up. It's like, yeah, I don't remember. I'll look it up.
Yeah, if you find it, post it for me in the Facebook so I can add that to the blog post. Cool. Jump out, Chris.
Well, I was gonna say something on kind of what Jason and Sandy were saying is, yeah, by showing empathy and that you care about maybe that the other person is having something, and kind of going back and put yourself in their shoes, because there are times where we're going through issues and we just wish somebody might take that moment or time to understand our situation or to empathize with us. So when we do that with others, we're allowing them to be in that moment, even though we don't let it really affect us, but we allow them to have that moment and maybe work through it or find another avenue to work through it. And we might be that, like you said, Sandy, that conduit to allow them to do that. And then it dissolves things or makes things easier. Therefore, we haven't changed where we're coming from, like you said, Jason, but we're allowing them to maybe change and move from where they're at and get to a better place for them too. And I think that's where empathy and compassion really shows up. And, going in that route, I think that a lot of times helps.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Between you and Jason, that just like pretty much completed my query, my question into it, because in a certain way there's nothing really I can do, and so that the empathy and compassion are about the best. I mean, yes, and there's serious life issues with this individual, so I don't need to worry about. I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. So yeah, that's a really good. I appreciate those viewpoints, you guys. Compassion and empathy, and makes a lot of sense.
I like that example, Sandy. That's an excellent example of how you can, how you can have that impact, and then also be impactful within yourself, but it doesn't all this, like, I think what everyone was alluded to earlier was about being in our head, and in order to do that, we have to step outside of our head, or outside of our emotional stance in the situation, and then remember this verse, right? I mean, and we get caught up in the emotions, and we get caught up in what we were talking about earlier, what like Karen was talking about, and about being being in our own minds, walking around in our own minds all the time, and not being, there's so much that we're not aware of, and there's so much we're not aware we can affect, and we're just kind of stuck in our own heads, mulling over, wallowing, if you will, like Samantha was saying about what's going on with us, and not realizing that what's going on with us can actually change for the better if we're able to make those outside connections, and we do have to be letting go all along the way, though. And then so that brings up what kind of popped in my mind when Samantha was talking about letting go, and at the same time you're letting go of one thing, you're also trying to focus forward on what it is that you're trying to get done, long-term, short-term, and what have you, and you're trying to make this letting go a permanent thing, rather than having to let go every time a situation comes up, right? So it's not an easy thing that just like happens. It'll happen, but then it'll have to happen again, and then it'll have to happen again, and if you stay with it, then it'll happen more frequently. It'll start to happen without you having to actually stop yourself and think about it, or having to have a trigger to do it. But yeah, so it's not like it's an easy thing, but I think it can be done if you, like I think what Karen was saying, as soon as you realize that you're having these negative thoughts, or that you're stuck in this mental loop, that then you can do something about it, right?
Absolutely. Oh, jump out, Sandy.
You sure? Okay. Yeah, something you said, Jason, made me think, sometimes too, I guess, like there's, okay, like let go, like, but then it made me think too, like you know, maybe sometimes we can't let go, or maybe not supposed to certain situations, because we have to learn something from it too. So there's like this thing too of like when, you know, I guess you know when it's the right time to let go, because sometimes you can have something come up and you have to sort of process it and go through emotions and before you can let it go. So I guess, I don't know, I guess that's a question to put out there, like what, you know, because there is like this timing of letting go too, I think, because a lot of times you're learning through the situation if you're in a hard situation, and you have to process the emotions and process things before you can let it go. So I guess it's not just like, I'm just going to let go of everything right away and be happy and perfect, you know, like, because that doesn't happen either. Because if we think we let go of something, I guess if we think we let go of something, it's going to show up again if it needs to be worked out still. So it'll just repeat itself. So yeah, there's that whole timing of letting go and balance and processing. And if anyone has insights on that.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, in an environment, in certain situation, yeah, sometimes you have to process things. And what that reminds me of is medicine. And the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, let's say you do get a bee sting and there's an end of a bee in you. Well, at that time, you need to pull the end of the bee out. So you need to at least see the tail of the bee and then pull that out. So, yeah. There's a time you need to deal with whatever's, you know, might be the problem or something, or the thing that you need to get over. But we're getting towards the end here, so I'll send it back to you guys, and thanks. Sorry for talking so much.
Oh, I'm glad everybody has shared so much. That's awesome. I took a bunch of notes today and had even more thoughts and insights that popped into my head. And I love that you shared that, Sandy, about the timing of letting go. And it all comes back to that harmony, you know, being in harmony with the Tao is just allowing. Sometimes we just have to allow ourselves to go through all this mumbo jumbo that we put up so that we can come to realizations of, oh, wait, you know, once we become more self-aware, when we can watch these waves of emotional stuff going through our lives, is then we can learn from them. And that's huge. I mean, just that you know, that issue that I was having with the RV and my husband and trucking and all of that kind of thing, you know, and in that lesson, I learned that, you know, my whole end goal, I thought that RVing was the thing that was going to make me happy. And of course, you know, my end goal is I just want to be happy in life, right? And sometimes we get stuck on the method of what we think is going to make us happy. And I think that's where a lot of this stuff it causes us to get stuck, as we think that whatever is not going on or is going on is the cause or would be the cause of us becoming happy. And I, you know, for everybody, maybe it's not happiness that is the ultimate goal. Maybe it's something else. But either way, yeah, just kind of going with the flow, seeing what comes up in our lives, experiencing the experiences for what they are and what we can gain insights from. But Catherine, we haven't heard much from you. You want to share some final thoughts before we wrap up for today?
Well, I've loved what everybody's had to say today. And, you know, this message of letting go is, like I said before, it's really one of the best gifts you can give to yourself. It is definitely part of the Byron Katie 4 questions that I kind of live by and bring up a lot. That is all about letting go. That's what those 4 questions are. That is exactly what it's for, is to let go of things. And it's, you know, we have so much available to us. And I feel like I've lived 50 lifetimes in this one lifetime. And it hurts my heart to see people get hung up on things, but it's that discomfort that that helps them grow. It's like that, what they say about the butterfly or the chicken and the egg or whatever, you know, they're trying to get their way out. And if you help them, like they're weak, their wings don't work, and you know, they actually have to forcefully peck their way out of there, or whatever butterflies do to get out of their cocoon. The action of them going through that is what gives the wings the strength for them to fly. And that's how we are. That's exactly how we are. And I have noticed in myself and with others, but more so with myself, because everything I say is directly to myself as well as everybody else. It is, excuse me, it is our resistance to things. Like it's not what is happening at the time. It really is our thoughts about it. It is our thoughts that it shouldn't be happening. You know, just like we had a sort of a hilarious situation in the chat this morning before we got on, because none of us got any sleep.
Just me, or she frozen for everyone?
She froze.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, she lost her internet. There she comes. Maybe.
Did it catch back up? No.
And now it's just
There
quit.
she is. There she is. We lost you there for a minute, Catherine. Jump back out.
Where was I?
Anyway,
resistance. It is our resistance to things, guys. And I laughed, Dan. I think you said something about, or somebody said, "Why is this an issue?" Like, I say that to people every day. Why is this an issue? And sometimes we find out it's an issue coming from 50 years ago in childhood or something. It is so crazy how these things stick with us and we don't see the power of them. And something that I got to realize in a huge way just yesterday is, you know, I'm sort of on this mission to help people in impoverished nations and stuff. It's interesting, though, because I only find the very impoverished people in those nations. And I have other people on my team that are now moving into those nations, and they are only finding people that have like tons of money. It is in this impoverished nation. And I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. This is truly interesting, because I see where my focus is and I'm finding exactly what I'm focused on. And I just think that it's always so. You know, you just have to control where your focus is at, and you have to learn little tricks to change it if it's because we all get on the wrong focus, you guys, every one of us. And if you say you don't, you're a liar. So we all get off focus, but we have to find those little tricks to pull us back in line, whatever that is that works for you. I love some of the ideas that have been shared here today. And it's always a pleasure to be here, even if I have only had 2 hours sleep or an hour sleep. I always enjoy if I push through to be here with you guys. So thank you so much. And don't listen to your thoughts, guys. I'm telling you, and take the emotion out of it. Take the any situation that you're in when you're like freaking out, having that hissy fit. If you can, just because, like what I do is I turn into a Vulcan. You guys know Spock? I'm like, what would Spock do right now? And then I like Vulcan out, and I take the emotion out of it, and then I can see it like so clearly for what it is and find the solution, and then it's all cool. So go Spock on it, you guys. I love you.
Awesome, Catherine. That was awesome wrap up for us. Okay, so any final thoughts before we do actually end it up for today? Jason, do you want to jump out real quick?
Goodness, I have so many thoughts right now, but yeah, you know, there is something you said earlier, Samantha, about how when you try to let go and you start realizing that you need to let go, and you realize that the power is within you, and it's been within you the whole time, and then you start trying to let go, and then the emotions come back on you that, well, why didn't I let go of this? And now you're upset with yourself, and now you got to let go of that. And it can seem like as you're letting go, other things are popping up that you then have to let go of. Just keep recognizing them, and then letting go, and then like let Spock take over and talk yourself through these things, and is this really important to my ultimate, desire, and what my ultimate goal is going to be, and slap the hand of whatever that's holding on to whatever that is, whatever you need to do. For me, it's been when I get, it's actually an anger trigger. When I get angry enough that at the fact that something's been holding me back, and that emotional state gets greater than my need to hold on to that thing, and I express that through my body. I let that resonate, that I do not want this anymore because of, and this is why. That's really helped me. It helped me stop smoking cigarettes when I was in college, and if that can help anybody, I hope it does. It really is great to be here. I'm so glad everybody got on, and I hope we can see you guys more, and really also enjoying the group talks outside of this meeting. We have a group talk, a group chat that we all participate in over the week, and it's really nice to have that as well as just the Saturday morning masterminds. I encourage everybody to hop on, and love to hear what you have to say. Thanks, everybody, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Jason. Anybody else final thoughts?
If I could pop out and just talk about this one translation and the harmony part here, I think this is so incredible. Harmony, this is not the one that's with Wayne Dyer, but this is another one. Harmony is called the eternal. Knowing the eternal is called clarity. So essentially what we've talked about today in terms of letting go is that if we go through that process and we keep it in mind and we're aware of it, and we take the emotion out, and we pay attention to what our thoughts are and the perspectives that they're creating for us, and keep in mind that harmony is called the eternal. Knowing the eternal is called clarity. I was thinking, we talk about the baby at the beginning, and I always think, when you're a baby, you're so close to where you were when you made the decisions that you made about what you were going to do in this life, that suddenly, not suddenly, but over time become absolutely obscure to you. You have no idea why you're going through the things that you're going through. If you can keep in mind, that what's the benefit? What's the benefit of being the baby, and that as opposed to being the the butterfly. You and I definitely went to different schools, Catherine, because I never heard of a butterfly pecking its way out of the cocoon. And I'm going to think forever how grateful I am that I do not have to peck my way out of the cocoon. Thanks, guys.
Oh my goodness, Karen. Thanks for sharing that other translation, and I like how you're talking about the harmony and then the clarity, and when we talk about the infant and being closer to that clarity, and one of the things one of the tools that I use to get back to that clarity, and here's one thing: as a baby, babies don't have all this mumbo jumbo going on in their mind about, the things that they think are supposed to be this way or supposed to be that way, or beliefs or people's opinions, or all of these different things that cloud our mind and make us not sure of what decision to make. And if we think about meditation as a way to get that clarity back, and by going into a meditative state of just clearing out all the mumbo jumbo and just sitting in a quiet space of our mind with the intention of just being in harmony with the Tao and not trying to control anything and all of that, and that's my thought on how to get back to that clarity, is just clearing out all the mumbo jumbo and sitting in kind of a quiet space in my mind and just being in that harmonious state. So that's my thought on that. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for sharing all of your wonderful insights and your knowledge and experiences. And I know that all of this can help, many different people in their lives. And so I appreciate you so very much. And for those of you who are watching this as a recording, share your thoughts and insights. This video will be posted on YouTube. It'll also be on our blog. And you can find us by searching for Mindset Mastery Collective or Saturday Morning Mastermind. And you can put .com at the end of either one of those and find us. And of course, if you want to visit with us live on this next Saturday or any of the subsequent Saturdays after that, you can go to zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com and jump on here with us live. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear about your experiences and learn your insights as well. So with that, guys, have an awesome, amazing weekend and a wonderful week. And we'll see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.